Can everybody hear me?
I can. This is Betty Walters.
I can hear you too. This is Sandy.
Can you hear me? This is Linda. Looks like it's working now.
Sure is, Linda. Looking good.
Mine says the recording is on. Is that supposed to be?
Okay, I guess I'm talking.
Heard you loud and clear, Chris.
Mrs. Todd, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent.
So does it mean it's on when the microphone's showing?
Yeah, once you click talk, I think, and then once you push talk again, it shuts off.
So what about this video button?
I think that shows our face then.
Not sure I'll show that.
Video should be turned off, ladies, but you never know. It might pop up.
Thanks.
I'm going to try to keep it from happening because it uses too much bandwidth, so no worries.
This is a test.
Is that you, Jenny?
Yes, I was just testing. Now I'm off.
We got you. Glad you're on.
Welcome teachers and mentors to our second expansion forum course for this year. My name is Carol Giroux, and I will be one member of our forum team this evening. Before we jump into our coursework for this evening, we'll take just a few minutes to review the course requirements. There are 3 sections for this year-long course. One section is for early career teachers mentored by ASMP. A second section for second-year early career teachers, also mentored by ASMP, and a third section for all other K-12 educators. Next screen, please. Each section has a different instructor of record and a different CRN number, so please note your instructor now and again at the end of tonight's course. Also, there's a syllabus posted at the Blackboard site that you need to review and know all expectations for this coursework. Registration for all others can still happen, but a late fee will be imposed. If you know of others that would like to join in, they still can with a late fee. Mentor teachers have until January to register without a late fee, as they only are required to attend 4 sessions, although early registration is encouraged. In addition to attending either 4 or 5 of the 8 yearly topics, you do have other coursework obligations. Those are to be found online at Blackboard Collaborative and include interaction on the Blackboard Collaborate, so be sure to check the syllabus. On the next 2 slides, we'll give you the bare bones of what your deliverables will be to earn 3 graduate credits for whatever session you choose to enroll. Take a quick look at this slide. It outlines what first and second year teachers must do for their 3 credits. Perhaps you may want to take a screenshot. If you're on a Mac, hold down the Command, Shift, and 4 key together, and you'll get crosshairs, which you drag and drop over the area of your intended screenshot. Or on a PC, use the Print Screen button on your keyboard. In either case, your graphic file should appear on your desktop. Basically, mentored teachers are working with their mentor throughout the year and submitting paperwork for each forum, plus a college-level reflective paper after attending 4 of these forums. Expectations for college-level writing can be found on Blackboard Collaborative. Basically, 12-point font, double space, style guide, and so on. Other educators, you have the forum work 9 p.m. nightly reflection papers for each of your 5 topics chosen. Plus, you get your choice, either finding and reviewing an article related to each of the 5 course topics you attended, totaling 5 articles, or creating a lesson plan on each of the forum's topics which you attend. Tonight's is working with ParaProfessional Educators, delivering the lesson and submitting a lesson along with a reflection of how it worked. This totals 5 lessons. Either 1 or 2 is due within 30 days of each forum attended. At the close of attending 5 topics of the 8 offered, you too will have a college-level paper to submit reflecting back on the 5 forums and its impact on your work. All of you taking this for credit should know that the full transcript of the syllabus can be found on Blackboard Collaborative, and any questions you have about the work should be directed to your instructor of record. All of you will receive 3 graduate-level credits for this year-long course. One other piece. We have lots of acronyms, it seems, in education, and this course is no exception. Briefly, we'll use these acronyms pretty regularly throughout the course. ASMP refers to our Alaska Statewide Mentor Project. ECT refers to early career teachers in their first or second year of teaching. Others refers to all other educators that aren't being mentored. CAL refers to our collaborative assessment logs. This is work that we do with our mentored teachers. Also, we develop an independent learning plan with them. And EED refers to our Department of Education, and it stands for Education and Early Development. EL refers to English learners. If for any reason we use an acronym that you're not familiar with, don't be afraid to use the tool below your name to raise your hand, and we'll try and answer it as swiftly as possible. All right, our outcomes for tonight. By the close of this 2-hour forum, we hope you will have a better understanding of how to develop your role as a leader of your classroom instructional team. Develop a system to integrate the paraprofessional as a key member of your instructional staff. Communicate effectively with paraprofessionals to solve problems, and develop a model for providing feedback to paraprofessionals and sharing strategy for creating and maintaining that feedback system. We know that this is a very structured protocol, and we invite you to make it your own so that working with your paraeducator is a natural fit for you and that person, and that your ultimate goal is to build a partnership with that paraeducator that respects and validates what they bring to the table. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce you to Ann Ness, who works as a full-time mentor and is our technical support system. She will give us some tips on using the Blackboard collaborative tools and the screens used for our breakout sessions this evening. So without further ado, I'll turn the mic over to Ann.
Thank you, Carol. Hello. At the beginning of every expansion forum session, the first or second slide will have a reminder to check your audio. Please make sure that you use the audio setup wizard before you begin each session. In order to do that, you would go to Tools, Audio, and Audio Setup Wizard. The wizard will walk you through the steps that you need in order to do that. The next thing I want to show you is above the participants window. The participants window is your list of names on the left. You'll see a row of 4 icons. The first one is for emoticons to use in the chat area. The second one is if you need to leave for a short period of time. Make sure that you click that button to let us know that you have left the session for a few minutes, and please make sure you click it when you come back. This is very important for a few reasons. A presenter might call on you to answer a question, and because this is a university class, we take attendance periodically throughout the evening. So you need to make sure that you have clicked back in so we get you on attendance. The third icon is for raising your hand if you have a question. The last icon is a polling tool. While we are not probably going to use this tonight, it's a good one to know about for grouping yourselves into different grade level rooms. The next one we'll talk about are the whiteboard tools that you'll see on the left. When you use the whiteboard, you'll have a whole range of tools, and you will be using the whiteboards tonight. The first one is a selection tool. When you just click on it once, you'll see the handles, and you can move that selection around the screen. The pointer tool has a variety of different pointers that you can use. The pen stroke tool and highlighter is something that you will probably use tonight if you need to make hash marks or you really want to highlight something that you've written on the whiteboard. We will be doing this during Learning 1, I believe, so be sure you know how to pick up the line tool and make a hash mark. The text tool, which you will probably also be using, has two options. The option that we would like you to use is the one with the large A. This tool will create a single line of text, and it will continue right off the page if you are not watching. When you press the return, it will start another line right underneath. Carol has already talked about taking screenshots, and you might want to take a screenshot right now of this. On a Mac, in order to take a screenshot of the whole screen, you do Command-Shift-3. For just a certain area, you use Command-Shift-4. Move your crosshairs around your selection. On a PC, you hit the print screen button. We will be grouping ourselves today into 3 different groups. Although we're not using the polling tool, later in the forum we're going to be moving into breakout rooms. If you teach many or all grade levels, or if you're a special ed teacher, you may just choose a grade level where you're most comfortable or have most concerns for meeting classroom needs. So later on, when you're asked to move to your grade level rooms, you will simply click and hold on your name that's in the participation window. Drag yourself to your grade level room and then unclick. The moderators and facilitators of tonight's session are here to help and support you if you have any problems. So now I'll hand it back over to Carol.
Thanks, Anne. As I said, I'm Carol Giroux, and Hal Neese, my fellow coordinator for these courses, will assist me. I'm in my 7th year as an ASMP mentor. Over the course of my 35-plus years in the classroom, I've had the privilege of working with a wide variety of paraprofessional educators. The stronger the partnership that we were able to develop strengthened and enhanced our work with our students. Presenting with us this evening are 9 ASNP mentors, including Anne, our tech support person, whom you've already met. Each of the other members will introduce themselves when they talk to you this evening. Hal and I are the expansion forum coordinators for all expansion forums. Your follow-up questions can be directed to either of us or to your mentor directly, or if you're an other educator, to Jan Littlebear. Our agenda this evening, we've done our welcome and objectives. Anne has introduced you to the tech tools. We've named our facilitators. In just a minute, I'll be going over our collaborative norms and our Teach Like a Champion best practices strategies. I'll be reviewing our Alaska teaching standards, and then I'll be turning you over to the other forum presenters for Connector, Learning Piece 1, Learning Piece 2, 3, and 4. Then Jan will do our cultural connections. Hal will end our evening with our balanced professional and reflections and closure. Now let's look at our norms. As we begin, let's keep in mind these collaborative norms that will guide our discussion tonight. Equity of voice. You all have ideas, examples, and expertise to add to the discussion. Equity of voice means allowing everyone an opportunity to add to the discussion, but also being willing to contribute your own ideas. Active listening. It's only Tuesday, but it seems like it's been a long week for us already. Let's do our best to listen mindfully, staying focused on what others are saying. Respect for different perspectives. Realize we have our own unique views and experiences. Let's honor and learn by listening and considering experiences and viewpoints that may or may not parallel our own. safety and confidentiality. During our forum tonight, we hope you'll share personal experiences, observations, but in an effort to respect privacy and retain confidentiality, please withhold names of specific sites or people. Online etiquette. We ask that you please state your name before you speak into the microphone. When we do cold calls, you don't have to say your name. Just please click on the talk button and respond. Remember to click off the talk button when you finish talking. The chat box is available for questions, comments, or to let us know if you run into any glitches with the audio or when recording on the screens. Also, due to the fact that we aren't face-to-face, we have an expectation that you participate to a high degree by sharing your ideas verbally and/or in writing during breakout sessions. As a part of tonight's forum, we will model best practice teaching strategies by integrating some of the 49 techniques from Doug Lemov's book, Teach Like a Champion. The first technique we will be modeling is cold call number 22. So, would Corey Cowgill please click on the mic and read aloud the topics on the screen?
Cold call number 22, double plan number 10, name the steps number 13, everybody writes number 26, entry routine number 28, wait time number 25, tight transitions number 30, and joy factor number 46.
Thank you so much, Corey. Notice how technique 22 is presented on this slide with the orange background and blue text in the upper right-hand corner. That's how each technique will show up on the slides tonight. To simply remind you, we are modeling a particular technique from this book, Teach Like a Champion. The Alaska Statewide Mentor Project uses Alaska's 8 teaching standards and 5 cultural standards in our work with you. These are listed for you on the screen. Standards use a common language and describe a shared vision for Alaska teachers and the best practices that support them. Tonight, we're going to focus on Standard 2, Student Learning, Standard 3, Respects Individual and Culture, and Standard 8, Developing as a Professional. Chris will conduct our first learning piece for this evening. Chris?
Thanks, Carol. Good evening. I'm Chris Walker. This is my 3rd year with the Alaska Statewide Mentor Project. Currently, I serve early career teachers in the Nome City, Iditarod, Bering Straits, and Northwest Arctic School District. My backup person for this evening is Jenny Carlson, an active member with the Alaska State Mentor Project. Let's get started. Does this cartoon speak to you whenever you have to meet with your supervisor? We think it's a perfect way to illustrate some of our changes this evening. Part of supervision is evaluation. Evaluations can be an uncomfortable experience, even when it's informal. An evaluation should be a means of improving an individual's performance and lead to greater professional growth. When we have a paraprofessional working with us, that puts us in a position where our input will go towards that para's evaluation. Think about and write your personal definition of the term supervision in relation to other adults in the classroom. Let's think for a moment on this prompt. In relation to other adults, I see supervision as Okay, now that everyone has had a chance to write down some ideas, please jot them down on the whiteboard. Remember, when using the whiteboard, use the A tool with the gray background. Wow, it looks like some great thoughts have been shared out. Let's see how our evening's learning helps us clarify our thoughts, our thinking. Thank you. Now we'll go on to tonight's learning piece with Deb McCabe.
Thanks, Chris, for getting us started. I'm Deb McCabe, and this is my second year as an ASD Yugo mentor. I've taught for several years in special ed, gifted, emotionally disturbed, regular ed in Oregon, Alaska, Virginia, and California. My backup support tonight is Sandy Toth. Sandy will tell you more about herself when she presents her piece. The goal for this forum is that you will come away with an action plan that you'll be able to use immediately to build effective partnerships with your paraeducator. In order to build your plan, you'll be using a template like the one shown on the screen that corresponds to the 4 learning pieces in tonight's forum. We'll be giving time at the end of each section to develop different parts of your plan, and you'll be sending the completed template to your facilitator and mentor as your reflection for this forum. Because of this, it will be easiest for you to use an electronic version of the template. You should have received an email with the template attachment for you to download. Or you can quickly make up your own Word document with the 4 sections as shown on this slide. Of course, if all else fails, take a piece of paper, fold it into 4 parts to take notes, scan it and send it, or transcribe it into your electronic document to send to as your reflection. As completing this action plan is a big piece of tonight's reflection, you must be able to send your completed plan, so be sure you are recording in a manner making it legible for your instructor of record as well as your mentor if you are enrolled as a first or second year teacher mentored by ASMP. In our connector, you did some thinking about what supervision means. This slide shows us the supervisory functions of a classroom leader. That's you. David Berlinger has suggested that teachers today have roles that closely resemble executives in business, but most education programs don't prepare teachers for these roles. We have adapted his list of executive functions for our forum tonight. As the leader of your instructional team, all of those people who come into your classroom to help or those you send out to other classrooms to help students, you're responsible for. Keep in mind the buck stops with you. You'll be guiding them in this area. Because you both have contact with students, you share in instruction and classroom management. Let's look over these functions. Obviously, you plan instruction, Your planning should include what their responsibilities are each day. Because you have learning goals for these students, your paraeducators should know what those learning goals are. Those are clearly defined for the SPED in an IEP, whereas in the classroom teacher, they may be in the process of working through developing them. Nevertheless, if they know where you're going, you make it there easier. You're the one who establishes schedules and assigns duties, especially if you're a SPED teacher. In our second learning piece tonight, we'll be presenting some strategies to support you in these first three functions. The third learning piece focuses on communication, which connects with the next three functions. It's important to establish an effective work environment and to make sure your paraprofessional or any other new member to your classroom knows what expectations you have for them, as well as the student, how that classroom is expected to function. The idea of representing the classroom with others implies that you are the spokesperson for your class. Have you considered how you want them or your students to be seen? The way you and the people who work with you talk about the students will control how others in the school and the community see them. You are the decision maker for them as well. Therefore, for the sake of all concerned, expectations of confidentiality are essential, and expectations for your leadership and decision making are essential as well. Finally, you need to monitor the performance of the people you work with in your classroom. Give them frequent feedback in order to strengthen their skills. Remember to look for ways that they are doing the job, just the way you intended it to be done. As you do with your students, think positives over negatives for the maximum willingness to work. Our fourth learning piece tonight will deal with this topic. This slide shows each executive function with a scale to evaluate your own performance, ranging from very effective to not effective. We're going to do a quick anonymous survey on these functions. We'd like you to use the line tool to make tally marks like Anne showed you at the beginning of the forum. You may start. When you're ready, read through the function and use a hash mark to tally the column which you feel best describes your current level of performance. For example, for the first function, do you feel that you're very effective, effective somewhat, or not effective at planning instruction that includes roles and directions for your paraeducator? My gosh, I'm so thankful for your feedback, and I'm so sorry I talk so fast. That's just me. When you finish tallying, take a look at our chart and think about the trends you see in this group. How does your evaluation compare with others? And how could you use this information to help you develop your own abilities in working with adults? Please use the microphone to make comments. We have one more activity in this learning piece, and then you'll have time to work on your action plan for classroom leadership. Next, we're going to discuss a three-part tool that can support you in developing your time with your paraeducator in a provocative way. Proactive way. Maybe not provocative. I guess provocative is not the word. So sorry. Work style. There are many variables that can affect working relationships. On the next slide is a three-part tool that can support you in developing your time with your paraeducator in a proactive way. Although I'm using the word paraeducator, keep in mind that those people who come into your classroom consistently and intentionally to help, paid or not, are worthy of this respect. This tool provides a survey for you, the professional, as well as your paraeducator, the one working with you in your classroom, and a score sheet to enable you and your paraprofessional to compare and discuss points of view to determine how you can work with each other's differences. There are 25 items on the survey, but we're just going to look at the first 4. On this slide, the heading, directions, and the first item from the 2 surveys are seen. The one for the teacher reads, "I like to supervise closely," while the one for the paraeducator says, "I like to be supervised closely." The results give you 2 different points of view and can be very helpful in building a good working relationship. Each item is marked on a scale from 1 to 5. With 1 indicating strong disagreement and 5 showing strong agreement. Naturally, the results give you the 2 different points of view. The teacher marked a 5 on this item, while the paraeducator marked 2. Think about it. We'll go to the next one. Here you see the next 3 statements. We notice that this time the teacher basically agrees strongly with each of these items. Keep thinking. How do the results lead to profiles that will help you and your paraeducator to work together effectively and efficiently? Here are the same items on the paraeducator survey. Some of the answers indicate differences between your 2 points of view. It's important that we compare responses, so let's look at both of them together. Because the work style results for the first 4 items are on the survey, you can clearly note together your similarities and differences. As you can see, number 1 shows scores that are 2 points apart. Since closeness of supervision is the basis of your working relationship, you and your paraeducator would probably want to talk about this item and make some agreements about how you'll be supervising. Results for flexibility in work schedule and preciseness in expectations look fairly close. You decide together whether these differences will hinder your relationship or not. You can see that both people marked 5 for number 4. In this case, the numbers seem to indicate agreement. But from working on the surveys, this actually means that both the teacher and the paraeducator want to decide which materials to use. Whoops. This is a heads up that you should check the marks on both surveys to decide on the real levels of agreement. And since this 4th item shows a big difference of opinion, we're going to take a closer look at this one response and think about some ideas for a conversation. Compromise will be needed on both sides to reach an agreement. So let's say you are a first-year teacher who feels strongly you should be determining which instructional materials to use with your students. You, however, are working with a paraeducator who's been in the same position at your building for 12 years. This person has experience using the district's curriculum materials and also feels very strongly about choosing what he or she will be using to work with students. What are some things that you could say to get a conversation started and move it along? Looking at the screen, there are 3 conversation stems. The first one, it looks like, gets you started on a respectful note of the issue. The second, would you tell me a little more about, can help clarify your paraeducator's ideas. The third, how would it look if, get you started on how you can compromise and plan how you will work together. I'd like you to take a few minutes and add a few ideas for finishing these sentences. Since this is a forum, we'd like to hear your voices. State your ideas using the microphone, and Sandy will write them down for you. Feel free to ask each other questions. If you choose to write your own ideas on the whiteboard, please use the plain capital A tool. We will now give you some time to capture some thinking.
Hi, this is Sandy, and I'm ready to write. If anyone could share some ideas, I'd be happy to write them on the board for you. So I'll turn the mic off, and hopefully one of you or many of you will share your ideas. Thanks.
Well, I think that if I were to use the second one, I would say, would you tell me a little bit about more those materials you use? As opposed, that way I can see what she uses, and then we can maybe collaborate and like, okay, I don't particularly like this one. What if we use this one, and then we could talk a little bit if she explains what she has first.
This is Janine Todd. I think I would say, would you tell me a little bit more about how the program has worked in the past? In STEM, would you tell me a little bit more about your role working with one student at a time or a small group? This is Debbie. This is Kelly. I think I would want to ask, would you tell me a little more about what has been successful, and then tell me a little bit more about things you would like to change from the past.
This is Hal. I might ask the parent how maybe the special needs students' needs have been met with these materials, and if she or he found any difficulties.
Hi, this is Donna. I would probably ask her what she would do, what he or she would do if they found out the materials were not working.
This is Debbie. It looks like you've worked with a specific student last year. What concerns do you have walking into these lessons or this year or this unit?
You could also acknowledge their experience with the materials by saying something like, it looks like you are very familiar with all of the materials. Can you help share what has worked in the past and what hasn't?
Hello, this is Steve Shuttleworth for the "it looks like" statement. I might say something to the effects of, it looks like you've had a lot of success using blank materials in the past. What is it that you like about using them? And I'd also use the same statement to say, what is it that presented challenges using those materials?
This is Danielle Dooley. I would also probably ask how they use the materials, not just what material they're using, because I feel like some people use the material completely differently than somebody else may present it. So that might be an important question to ask as well.
Thank you for sharing out your thoughts. I really appreciate it. It's amazing how important it is to hear each other. We've come to the end of Learning Piece 1, demonstrating some skills necessary to lead your classroom team. Take a couple of minutes or so to write some specific actions down on your own personal action plan, ideas that you will try to implement to become a more effective leader. It's okay if your ideas are rough at this point. You'll have time at the end of the forum to finalize your action plan before you turn it in for your reflection. Any questions? I'm going to turn this back to Chris, who started tonight with the connector. Chris?
Actually, before Chris grabs it, let's give everybody 3 minutes to capture their thinking on the first quadrant of the action plan, because that will help you later tonight. So, Anne, if you could set the timer for 3 minutes, that would be helpful. Thanks.
It's up. We have 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Thanks, Deb. Our standard for this learning piece is number 2, apply student learning. A teacher understands how students learn and develop and applies that knowledge in the teacher's practice. The teacher identifies and teaches to the developmental abilities of the students and applies that knowledge in the teacher's practice. Paraprofessionals are a major asset in fulfilling this standard. It is the responsibility of the teacher to develop a system to integrate the paraprofessional as a key member of the instructional team. Paraprofessionals assume a variety of responsibilities and perform a multitude of tasks in our classrooms. Their duties may vary depending on the student populations that they are working with, and if the educational environment is a pull-out, separate class, such as a resource or a self-contained, versus a push-in inclusion model. They influence positive changes in the academic achievement and behavior in a number of ways that may include reading with text to the student, providing one-on-one instruction, directing small group work, providing guided practice, reading a story to a small group of students, assisting small groups of children in reviewing their work, meeting the needs of students with disabilities while also assisting others in a support role, assisting any and all students in the classroom where students with disabilities are included, physically assisting students to do their own work, solely serving the needs of one student with a severe disability, assisting students with the personal needs such as eating, dressing, positioning, lifting, carrying, bus loading. Assisting students with personal care, such as bathing, grooming, toileting. Assisting students in using adaptive equipment or devices. Motivating children with emotional needs as a motivator and a model for positive behavior. Serving as a positive role model to students with behavioral emotional disturbances. Intervening in positive ways to support and encourage relationships between students both with and without disabilities. Facilitating appropriate peer interaction and social skills. Effectively using a paraprofessional in your classroom requires planning, just as does effective teaching. So let's look at an effective way to do this. A traditional lesson plan tells what the teacher plans to teach. However, we can expand on this, making a more effective learning piece, one that includes our paras. In his book, Teach Like a Champion, Doug Lemoff introduces us to technique number 10, double plan. We plan for what we, as teachers, will do as we're teaching. We should also be planning for what the students will be doing to support their own learning. Do we want them to fill in a graphic organizer? Take notes? What kind of notes? Students need to be taught the type of responses that are desired for the assignment given. Do they know how to take notes? Do they know the type of responses needed for successful demonstration of acquired knowledge? To succeed at this technique, number 10, Limbaugh recommends that you make a T-chart for your plan. At the top, you put the objective for the lesson. On the left, you write what you, as a teacher, do. On the right side, you do write what the students will do for each activity you put in on the left. Do they fill in a graphic organizer? Do they make a timeline? Do they brainstorm with a partner? Do they create flashcards? There are all kinds of ways to support and reinforce a lesson. Be sure in advance that you have plans and materials to support your objectives and collect information about their successes. However, to teach like a super champion, take this one step further and triple plan. Add an additional column on the right side. This will be where you include what your paraprofessional will be doing alongside of you and the students. On the next slide, showing some things para could be doing to support teachers with different objectives. This slide shows just a few ideas. The handout was sent for this class, and that will give you some additional ideas. Feel free to add your own ideas here as well. Let's take it step by step. On the top of the plan, you'll notice that the teacher has made a class profile. This is a simple yet powerful tool to help the teacher focus on all the students' needs in the class, where there are 2 in the A group, students who are on grade level, the Tier 1 group. The B group has 3 students who are close to grade level, the Tier 2 group. The C group has 6 Tier 3 students. And finally, D group are those students who are below grade level. Within this group are 2 students with IEPs. The lesson's goal is that students will be able to perform addition and subtraction operations with multi-digit whole numbers and decimals to the 100th place. Your triple plan format may look something like this: a column that shows the teacher's action, the desired student's action, and the paraprofessional's role in this lesson. Let's take it. First, the plan focuses on what the teacher will be doing, what will be said and explained and modeled. Next, the teacher adds what the students are expected to be doing to support their own learning. This sort of planning helps you to see the lesson through their eyes and keep them productively engaged. In the third column, the teacher adds what the paraprofessional's role will be in the lesson. As a classroom teacher, or in conjunction with the special education teacher, you must train the paraprofessional on how you want them to teach. The para focuses on the C and D group students. Are their journals accurate? This takes us to 10 a.m. What next? The students in Group C have been identified as having weak computational skills. The students in Group D have IEP goals for computational skills. So during the 9:50 to 10 o'clock section, the para will work with individuals on basic math facts. One way to provide an organized format for the para can be a folder. On one side would be the worksheet and our flashcards that would be needed for reviewing the math facts. On the other side would be a chart with the students' learning objectives. The chart would be containing the students' names with the learning objectives. The orange coding would be for the skills in which the Tier 3 students are not proficient. Those in green would represent the IEP objectives for the identified special education students. The boxes would be the space in which paras could input data from quick assessments. This might make a great screenshot. This is a perfect opportunity for you and your mentor to work together to try to create a schedule with your para that equals that of a super champion. If you are a seasoned teacher, thinking of working with a special ed colleague, or better yet, with your para so the communications avenues are totally collaborative and open, or perhaps a colleague will share this with students. Think about it. We'll be giving you a few minutes to capture some of your thinking on your own lesson plans. Take time to fill in Learning Square number 2 with specific action based on what you heard and the discussion in this second learning piece. That concludes Learning Piece 2. When we return, Sandy Tarth will take us through Learning Piece 3. Thank you, everyone. We will resume class in 3 minutes with Sandy Tarth. So feel free to use this moment for a stretch or a quick bathroom break. Thank you all.
We had a few questions on this end, so I set the timer for 5. So now you have 4 minutes and 28 seconds.
Thanks, Chris. Well, welcome back. I hope you've enjoyed the first 2 learning pieces. And before we go any further, well, first let me introduce myself. I'm really happy to be here with you tonight as we explore the important topic of effectively communicating with paraprofessionals. My name is Sandy Toth, and this is my 2nd year as a mentor with the Anchorage School District Urban Growth Opportunity, or UGO Mentor Program. My support person for this segment is Deb McCabe, who you met earlier this evening. But before we move on to Learning Piece 3, I just wondered, does anyone have any questions or are there any comments that you would like to make about Learning Pieces 1 and 2? I'll turn off the mic and open it for any questions or discussion that you might like to share. Well, there's a lot of dead air there, so we have a quiet group. So we will move ahead with Learning Piece 3, but if you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to either put them in the chat section at the bottom of the screen on the left-hand side, or raise your hand, and I might be talking and might not notice it, but hopefully someone else will alert me and I can stop talking and we can field your questions then. Okay. We're going to go ahead with Learning Piece 3. As you can see expressed in the cartoon on the screen, resolving conflict with another adult can be just as tough, if not tougher, than dealing with students. Okay, during the portion of the evening, we'll be focusing on Teaching Standard 8, Developing as a Professional, with a particular emphasis on the following statement. Teachers will be able to communicate effectively with paraprofessionals to solve problems. As you began the school year and met your paraprofessionals for the first time, you may have felt a sense of relief to have another adult working with you in your classroom. Little did you know that working with an adult brings its own challenges when it comes to communication and sharing the responsibility for teaching our students. This learning segment will give you some concrete strategies for communicating with your paraprofessional to resolve conflicts that might arise or solve problems if they arise as well. All right, we're going to explore resolving conflict as a 3-part process. First, showing respect, then clarifying the situation, and establishing next steps. The first part of this process is to respect your paraprofessional. You need to actively communicate respect to your paraprofessional in order to resolve any conflict with them. Think about how difficult it is to work out a problem when you don't feel liked or respected by the other person. I'm sure we've all been in a situation where we were trying to solve a problem but didn't feel the person we were working with liked or respected us. That's very, very uncomfortable. So the more we can do to show respect to our paraprofessionals, the better off we'll be. So here are a few ideas about how to convey respect as you problem solve with your paraprofessional. First, when there's an issue, establish a time and place to meet. This should be mutually agreed upon, a mutually agreed upon time and place. Next, always acknowledge the strengths they bring to the team, both at any meetings you have and also on a regular basis as you work together. All of us appreciate recognition for the things that we do well, and it would be great to build respect and rapport with them to do that with them. Also, attempt to use I language instead of you language. There's a big difference between saying something like, you really made me angry when, as opposed to, I felt blank when blank. It's important to really think about the words you choose to use. The second part of resolving conflict is to clarify the situation. You want to make sure and give the paraprofessional an opportunity to explain any problem from his or her point of view, and you also want to clearly state the problem from your side. So often you'll discover that conflicts and problems are a product of misunderstanding, really a communication issue. It's important to refrain from assigning blame. Instead, you want to agree on the common goals you have as a team. The third part of effective communication is planning next steps together. You need to brainstorm strategies for solving problems with your paraprofessional, and you need to encourage them to choose the ideas that will work best for him or her. This is all part of being respectful. Be clear about who will be responsible for what parts of the solution. Set down deadlines. Put the plan in writing and share it to be sure you're on the same page. So just to recap, show respect, clarify the situation, and establish next steps. All right, now we're going to look at a scenario as a whole group and listen to a role play between a teacher and a paraprofessional. Our facilitators will check off the strategies they hear as they hear them being used. Notice the strategies having to do with respect are blue. Those having to do with clarifying the situation are green, and next steps are orange. After the role play, we'll move into breakout rooms where you'll have the chance to listen for the strategies as they are used in a second role play and check them off the chart on your own. Okay, so we're going to listen to the role play now. In a couple of minutes, you'll do the tallying in your breakout room, so watch how this works. You'll see as we go, the check marks will appear on the sides of the different strategies as you hear them happen. Look at the situation at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to read that and to set the stage. Mrs. Lovely has prepared a homework packet for 6th grader Max, who will be missing a week of school to go fishing with his family. She catches Max and his mother at the door and attempts to deliver the packet, but Mom declines, saying, "Oh, thanks, but we don't need that. Mrs. Fixture said Max shouldn't worry about doing homework on this trip. Didn't she tell you?" Mrs. Lovely is upset. This isn't the first time her para has made unilateral decisions without consulting her. You might recognize this piece from our earlier presentation about establishing who is going to be the spokesperson for the classroom. So this is a scenario where what happens when the spokesperson hasn't been made clear, and the paraprofessional takes it upon herself to be the spokesperson for the classroom. Here's how you might have a conversation clarifying who should be the spokesperson for the classroom and why that's important. So I'll go ahead and read Mrs. Lovely, the teacher. Deb, who you met earlier, is going to help me out with this by reading the part of Mrs. Fixture, the paraprofessional. So we're going to go ahead and do that role play. Okay. Oh, Mrs. Fixture, I really appreciate you coming in early this morning to meet with me. It's going to be good to have a chance to talk before the students arrive.
Not a problem. What did you want to meet about?
Well, I was really caught off guard after school yesterday. Remember that Max was leaving for the fishing trip with his family? Well, I tried to give his mom the homework he would be missing, but she said that you had already told her he wouldn't be expected to make up that work.
Oh, sorry about that. I forgot to tell you. Max is going to be working as the deckhand for the opener, and I thought it was pretty obvious that we shouldn't ask him for homework.
Really? He's going to be on the crew? He seems way too little.
This will be his second year working the opener. There are 2 permits in that family, so Max could be the captain of his own boat by the time he's in high school.
I really appreciate how much you know about the families in our community. I can see Max won't have time for schoolwork while he's on this fishing trip working as a crew. I have to say, though, it felt pretty uncomfortable to have a parent telling me that you made the decision without consulting me. Can you see why that's a problem?
Well, it just seemed like common sense to me. Sorry if you're upset about it.
Well, I'm just wondering about how I'm going to explain to the next student, when the next student travels, why it is that they have to do homework when Max didn't have to do any. Since I'm in charge of grading, I'll have to be responsible to explain where our requirements are not consistent to the parents, too. Can you see why we need to work as a team and speak with one voice?
Yes, I can see that. You're right. The other students are going to want to get out of homework, too. I just didn't know I was going to be in that situation with Max and his mom. I just felt like I had to give information right away. I can't always find you to check every little detail.
That's really a good point. Well, maybe in the future, or even then, you could just let Max's mom know that you'll talk to me and then get back to her later. What do you think?
I can see how that would work.
That way, you would have time to fill me in on the situation, and I would have time to come up with some kind of compromise to the homework policy that would work in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I can see how we could work together to handle confusing situations.
So we can agree that when we come to situations where it seems like the usual rule doesn't fit, or you're unsure about what I might decide, you can let people know we'll have to discuss the issue as a team before a final decision can be made.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Okay, I'll write this down and share it with you so that we can be sure that we're both on the same page. I can see how we'll be able to work much better together as a team in these tough situations, especially with your knowledge of the community.
You know, I like being part of a team.
Me too. How about we go get some coffee before the kids arrive? Okay, so that was our role play, and you can see how it addressed this problem of the need to establish who's going to be the spokesperson in your classroom. We're going to give you an opportunity in just a few moments to try this out. Okay, now we're going to move into our breakout rooms in just a moment. And you're going to get to take on the role of checking off the strategies as you listen for effective communication and hear different strategies being used. At the end, you're going to be asked to give examples of what you heard. So you're going to have a big job here. You want to check off the strategy and take note about what was said so you can report back to the group. We're going to move into ourselves into our rooms in just a second. So remember, you're going to listen to the role play, check off the strategy, and be ready to share what you've heard. Okay, I think we're good. So I'm going to pause here in case there are any questions about anything that we're going to do.
I'm going to jump in here for a minute because we have 50-some people here and the participants list is very long. So at the very bottom of the participants list are 3 breakout rooms, grades 6 through 12, pre-K5, and special ed. So when Sandy gives you the okay after the questions have been answered, then you just grab and hold your name and take it to the breakout room that you want to go into. Okay, take it away, Sandy.
All right, well, I was actually waiting to see if anyone had any questions, so I'm glad Anne came in to clarify how to move yourself into the rooms, but we don't want to go there yet. Does anyone have any questions about what to do, what you're going to do when you get to the room? All right, we're going to go ahead. You can go ahead and move yourselves into the rooms. Right now, as Ann said, they're at the bottom of the list. So go ahead and slide your names down into the room that seems to fit you. And then Ann will set the timer for 10 minutes. We'll spend 10 minutes in our rooms. And we'll see you there. People, you need to click onto your name and then just drag your name down into that file that you feel most comfortable at. It looks like we're having a little trouble dragging ourselves into there, so let's give it a couple minutes and see if we can't get ourselves into those rooms. Several of you are successful.
Yeah, just be patient. I can tell that we are having some connection difficulties here and there, and I don't know, maybe those of you that are close to the Bering Coast are starting to get some wind, so it's okay. Just take your time and put yourself in your groups.
Hi, this is Sandy again. I'm back in the main room, and if those of you who are having a hard time dragging your name, I want to make another suggestion. Can they see, I'm hoping that as participants you can see there's a little toggle where it says main room, and if you click that toggle, it'll have lists of other rooms, and you can just move yourself in that way, I think. Let's try that if you can't get in the other way.
Hi, the main room toggle is actually off also. I can click on it and all it does is turn white.
Do you all see that little toggle that Sandy was just talking about up at the top to the right of the 4 icons? Tabitha, I know you were having trouble. Click on the little box at the top that says main room and you'll see a sped room and see if that gets you in there.
The main room icon, it just turns white, but nothing happens. Like don't see a pop-up or anything to go anywhere.
This is Deb. I'm trying hard, but it keeps bouncing me out.
Deb, which one do you want to be in?
Special ed, please.
This is Suzanne Clausen, and I'm having the same problems as everyone else. I click my name and I drag it, and it just bumps me out. If you could put me in 6 through 12, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Hello, this is Christina McLeod. I'm having the same issue. I'm trying to go to pre-K through 5.
This is Maureen. I'm trying to get in pre-K through 5 also, and it keeps popping out.
Maureen, did you try that alternate way with the main room up at the top and clicking on the one you want?
Yeah, I did. It turns white when I click on it, but I'll try it again.
This is Ashley Gray. I'm still having the same issue. Click on main room, it turns white.
Where do you want to go, Ashley?
Special ed, please.
Hi, this is Meg Abbott. I've been trying to get into the 6 through 12 room, and I've tried the main room and all the other stuff. The drag and drop is not working. Could somebody please help me?
And I'm going to suggest that we all come back to the main room and we do it as one group. And I'm not sure how we're going to get those slides in there. Is that possible?
Hi, Sandy. This is Don Campbell, and I'm in Togiak with Elizabeth, and we can't get Elizabeth down into the pre-K to 5 group either. Oh, pre-K to 5 special ed. Sorry.
The only thing I would say, and this is for everyone there, Jan just mentioned that maybe we should just be in the stay in the main room, and that works for me too. So I'm going to kind of leave it to the leadership team to let me know if we want to stay in the main room or if we want to do breakouts. That's no problem. But the way you're going to have to get in there is go to the toggle, which is next to the underneath your name. You'll see there's a smiley face and a clock and a hand, and then there's a room like a rectangular shape that has main room, and then there's a toggle, and I think you can toggle into the other rooms.
This is Tabitha. The icon for main room, I see the words there, but I don't have the toggle. It just turns white when I click on it.
Thank you, Tabitha. I was not sure if as participants you could see that, so let's just stay in the main room. I'm just going to make that decision. We'll stay in the main room together. I really apologize for this, but we thought it would be a little easier than it is. So let's just stay where we are in this main room. And Deb and I are going to do another quick role play. And but we're going to wait for just a moment because I'm going to ask Ann to put up that slide that has the opportunity for all the participants to make tallies. There you go. That's the one I need. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and read that. Read at the bottom of this form, or bottom of this sheet, and then Deb and I are going to do a role play. And what I'd like you to do is, as you hear those strategies being used, go ahead and put a little put a little check mark on the right-hand side, and then also think about the language that was used. And at the very end, we'll debrief with just asking you the language that was used, and we'll talk a little more about that. So Deb and I are going to do the, we're going to go ahead and do the role play. So at the bottom it says, Mr. Rogers had another frustrating day with his literacy centers. His first graders circle between word identification workbooks, interactive reading on iPads, reading to themselves and working in small groups, and reading with a teacher. Once again, the centers degenerated into chaos as the students failed to stay on task and continually interrupted his reading group needing help with broken headphones or finding the page in the workbook. Meanwhile, his para, Mrs. Flowers, sat at the iPad table looking bored and did little to help. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start the role play. Okay, I just need to find it. I apologize. Is it right up here? Okay. All right. Remember, you go ahead and put the hash marks in. Okay. I really appreciate your agreeing to stay after school with me today, Mrs. Flowers.
It's not a problem, Mr. Rogers. What is it that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I was really hoping to get your help with a reading lesson. I'm feeling frustrated about how crazy that time is. What do you think about how the reading class is going?
The kids are always trying to talk, and they don't seem to know what to do, and I don't know what to do either. I think that time is kind of boring.
It sounds like I need to set some clear goals for those independent readers. If I gave you some ideas for how to keep the students accountable, would you be willing to circle around the room during centers and check their work?
I could do that. Any ideas you have about how I can make a difference during that time would be great.
What if they had the goal of getting their book down pat and then reading it to you to be checked off?
What do you mean by getting the book down?
Well, that they can read the book aloud without needing you to prompt them on any words, and then they can read it without struggling or making more than a couple of mistakes.
If I had a list of their names and the books that they're supposed to read, I could keep track of when they completed each book.
Great idea. If you turned the list into me on Fridays, I could use it to record progress in the grade book for each student.
That works for me.
I really appreciate your willingness to take this on. I think it is really going to make a big difference as a team, working on this as a team.
That sounds great.
Let's plan on meeting after school Monday and talking about how the new accountability idea is working. I'd love your input on ways we can modify the idea. We want to motivate them to get the work done and be able to document progress, but we don't want to create a system that's too time-consuming for either of us. I really look forward to working together on this.
Me too.
Okay. Wow. I'm looking up at this sheet, and it is full of check marks. Yeah, lots and lots of tallies. So I really appreciate you working on this and taking time to do it. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask you a question, then I'm going to turn the mic off and ask one of you to respond. So choose an appropriate time and place. We're going to go through each of these steps. That's showing respect. What kind of language was used? Just one of you, if you would share something that you heard that was choosing the appropriate time and place.
This is Tabitha, and I heard at the beginning the teacher said, "Thank you for agreeing to stay after school with me today to talk about this." So that was, they both agreed to stay after school and work.
Yeah, this is Hal, and the first three words of Mr. Rogers was, "I really appreciate," and that was set a good tone.
Okay, thanks. Let's go on to avoiding you language. Speak in team language. Can we move there? Oh, and we need this. Yeah, there you go. Oh, I don't know what happened to it.
Mr. Rogers says, "I was really hoping to get your help."
Sandy, since the breakout rooms didn't work like we planned, we have about 6 slides we're juggling. Give me a slide number and you will have it.
The one that's up right now is the perfect one, Anne. Thank you. But that's where we need to be, right there. Okay, so let's move on to give positive feedback. Can someone share an example of language that was used in the role play where positive feedback was given to the paraprofessional?
I'd actually go back to where the last one, avoid the you language and the team language. The teacher said, "What do you think about how the reading class is going?" So that was doing some team efforts.
Thanks so much. I think that was Linda. Thanks, Linda. I appreciate your feedback.
This is Steve. I also really liked how it was said that the teacher, Mr. Rogers, said, I was really hoping, we can work together on solving this, and it really creates a good team atmosphere.
Thanks, Steve. Anyone else have any ideas? Let's just stick with respect. Any of those three. Choose appropriate time and place, avoid you language, speak in team language, and giving positive feedback. Let's just stick with those for a few more minutes.
Mr. Rogers said, great idea.
He also said, would you be willing to circle around the room during centers? So he didn't give an order, but he asked if she would feel comfortable doing that.
Okay, thanks. Let's move to clarify. I think they did clarify the problem by having a discussion about it, but both state the problem as they see it, ask for the para's point of view concerning possible solutions, clearly communicate the goal, and collaborate to generate problem-solving strategies. What was some of the language that you heard there? I see a lot of tally marks, so there must have been some language going on.
I thought it was good that he gave her a time to talk and to explain kind of what she saw.
Thanks, Nicole.
They both saw the problem. It was chaotic, it was unruly, and the kids were disorderly, so they both saw the same problem.
Right, Ashley, that's important that you both view the problem as a problem and not one person sees it as okay. Yeah, that's great. We see that some people are writing their ideas at the bottom and down in the chat space, and I really appreciate that too. That's great. So what she saw happening in the classroom, he did ask her what she saw happening in the classroom. He asked the paraprofessional. All right, let's move on to next steps. There were four different language stems that we were looking for. Times that he clarified what tasks needed to be done, discuss how the para will report the progress, check for understanding if they're on the same page, and share a written summary. So what are some ideas? I see at the bottom someone wrote calm and positive. That's Molly. Thanks for that feedback. So I'd like some other feedback too on the I'd like to hear your ideas.
Ms. Flowers asked, what do you mean by getting the book down? And so she was asking for clarity on that, and I thought that was a good point that she made.
They were talking about how the para could give back progress reports, like, hey, by Friday, why don't you get this? So it didn't put pressure on her to get it right back at the end of the lesson. It gave her a chance to get her thoughts together, give her things, and made sure that was okay with her before he said, you have to do it now.
You guys are doing a great job putting ideas down in the chat, and I appreciate that. So I'm going to go back and just read a little bit of this. Let me see. Spoke about accountability checklist that the para has already had in place as a, let me see. Sorry, I'm not toggling quite so good here. Checklist will help the para report progress. So you're doing some great writing at the bottom too. Since she wanted it back, it gave value to what the para was doing. Yeah, she would be able to give her feedback. It gave value to her. Sure. Thanks. All right. Well, hopefully this page looks great, and so I know you heard some of those strategies happening, and hopefully you can continue to think about that. And now what we'll do is we'll go, Anne, if you could get us to slide 55, that would be great. There we are. Yeah, the next one, I think. Oh, wait. Yep, that's it. That's where I want to be. All right. So through this third learning piece, we've identified several strategies for effective communication centered around respect, clarifying a situation, and establishing next steps. So we're going to set the timer for 5 minutes and give you an opportunity to fill in the third box on your action plan of effective communication. Write down some strategies that you might be able to use in your classroom. A lot of what we used tonight came from a book called Getting to Yes, a book that you might be familiar with. Think about what we just did and take a few minutes to fill out your form with some ideas that you might be able to use even tomorrow with your paraprofessionals. And thanks for taking the time to be here and for bearing with us as we had our little technical problems getting you into rooms. I appreciate your patience, and we'll just move forward from here. Thanks so much. Hi, this is Sandy again. I just wanted to say that as you're writing your ideas, capturing your ideas, that we're going to move on to learning piece 4 with our next facilitator, Linda, as soon as our timer is up. So again, thanks for working on your working so diligently tonight and sticking with us.
Thanks, Sandy. Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Fry, and I'm in my second year with the Mentor Project. This year, I'm mentoring in Northwest Arctic, Nome City Schools, Kodiak Island School District, and Bering Straits. My backup tonight is Chris Selman, and Chris is a second-year Urban Growth Opportunity, a UGO mentor in Anchorage. Chris works primarily with secondary special education students. So we're now going to move into our fourth learning piece, self-monitoring and feedback. It is our hope that when we are done with this section, you will have a model for a document that allows your parent educators to monitor their own progress, as well as a system for you to provide meaningful feedback to your parent educator. If we acknowledge that effective communication is vital to a successful classroom environment, then we must also acknowledge that meaningful feedback is vital to effective communication. This first quote on the screen points out, oh, excuse me, I'm going to do a cold call here. Let's see, Tabitha Leilon, could you read the
Sure. All effective and engaging learning experiences provide frequent and meaningful feedback. Without feedback on whether or not one is getting closer to a goal, progress is unlikely.
Thanks, Tabitha. That first quote points out that in the same way that meaningful feedback helps you become a better teacher, meaningful feedback for your parent educator can help them improve their skills, and as a result, improve the classroom environment for everyone. Mary Wolf, could you read the second quote, please? It's okay, I think I caught her unawares there. I'll go ahead and read it. I've always liked this quote. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Albert Einstein. That really highlights the reality that without meaningful feedback, people may just continue to make the same mistakes over and over again. The next few slides will speak to a method for providing meaningful feedback before, while, and after giving that feedback. Okay, next. Thank you. Okay, here's the before part. Some of this we've discussed already, but it's worth repeating. Look at that first bullet. Make sure that you have provided a job description that includes expectations and a self-monitoring rubric. A job description for paras may be provided by your school district, but it's up to you to make it specific to your classroom and your students' needs. The second bullet states, make it clear that you are the supervisor. In some of your situations, your para-educator may be both young and inexperienced. However, I'm guessing that for most of you, your para-educator is probably older and not only experienced, but most likely knows your students and the school community better than you do. Respect and honor that knowledge. It's often invaluable for understanding a situation with a student or a family, as we saw in our earlier role play. However, it's important to remember that regardless of your situation and the level of expertise of your paraeducator, you are the classroom leader and ultimately responsible for making the decisions. Bullet 3, clearly discuss roles and responsibilities. Roles, responsibilities, and expectations should be set at the start of the school year and reviewed at regularly scheduled meetings throughout the year. The team of a teacher and a paraprofessional working together with the teacher as the leader is a powerful resource in building student success. Remember, TEAM stands for Together Everyone Achieves More. Moving on to the next bullet, provide a schedule with specific expectations. Again, we've talked about this briefly before, and this fourth bullet is key. It's up to you to be sure that you clearly and respectfully communicate exactly what you'd like your paras to be doing and when. Sometimes, paras have worked with several other teachers before you came along, perhaps somebody with very different expectations from yours. You cannot give meaningful feedback on job performance if your para doesn't know what you would like them to do. Also, if you find yourself in a difficult situation with a paraeducator, I encourage you to work with your site administrator to take the lead in these dialogues. Involving him or her early in challenging situations will help make the supervisory relationship more collaborative and successful. The final bullet on this screen, encouraging and expecting regular self-monitoring, is something we'll discuss in detail in just a few minutes. So while you're giving positive feedback, it's important to start positive, just like you do with your students, and maintain professionalism and objectivity and personal. Use the rubric, stay on point. We'll look at a suggested rubric in a minute. Ask and answer questions. And finally, check for understanding. Okay, next slide, please. After giving feedback, it's important to maintain regular, positive, professional, and supportive interaction. And also maintain professionalism through that. We will now move from the before, while, after process of giving feedback to development of a tool that can be used to give that feedback. This is an example of a rubric that has a dual purpose. 1, self-monitoring for the paraeducator, and 2, feedback from the classroom leader, that's you. For our purposes, this particular rubric has been simplified and divided into 3 sections: effective environment, professionalism, and 3 subsections containing areas for feedback. It has a simple rating scale, 2 for proficient and 1 for emerging. These terms were specifically chosen because they clearly indicate that expectations are being met or that the paraeducator has some work to do. Your rubric for your site may contain more areas for feedback, but this example will give you a start for creating your own rubric. Note the specifics. We'll be asking you to generate your own feedback in just a minute. Okay, next slide, please. We were going to put ourselves into groups another time this evening, but we're going to do that like we did before. Okay, so we are going to have some time to brainstorm areas for feedback and specific items under each area. We have the model rubric as a guide, and I'd like people to just talk about things, and maybe if they could type, or we could have people put ideas in the chat, just get a lot of feedback here on what are some things that we could use for effective environment, instruction, and professionalism. Now, are there any questions or suggestions from other people in the group? Okay, if we don't have questions, how about if people can start? Does anybody have some ideas of things that you might put under scoring for effective environment? Okay, I'm going to read some of these. A specific place for the para to work with students, or a specific place for the para to keep their own work organized. Great idea. I'd also like to encourage you that are typing in the chat, if you put it on the screen, these screens are actually going to be, being recorded and will be saved, so they will be a record that we can look back on. So feel free to type it up there. If we fill this one up, we can go to another one.
This is Chris. I just wanted to come in here and say we're getting some really wonderful ideas, both in the chat box and written on the slide. So I want to thank you all very much.
Okay, if we could go on to the next slide. Thank you so very much. It's wonderful information here. Great ideas to create a rubric. Thank you. Remember, these rubrics are models or drafts. Your final rubric might look quite different, but the goal for this learning piece was for folks to come away with a method for para-educators to self-monitor their work and a system for you as a classroom leader to give meaningful feedback. For this final learning, take a moment to add a few thoughts to your action plan on how you can help your para do some reflective self-monitoring and how you can provide some productive feedback. And this brings our forum on working with para-educators to a close here. I'm going to let you work for a couple minutes. and then we'll review our objectives for the evening. Okay, we're near the end of our time together. It's our hope that you are now better able to, and there we go, thank you, develop your role as a leader of your classroom instructional team. 2, develop a system to integrate the paraprofessional as a key member of the instructional staff. 3, communicate effectively with para-educators to solve problems. And 4, develop a model for providing feedback to your paraprofessionals and have some strategies for creating and maintaining a feedback system. We're now going to turn to our cultural piece with Jan Littlebear.
Hey everybody, we're almost through for the evening. Thanks to the Para team. What a team. We're lucky to have so many talented educators with Alaska Statewide Mentor Project, and that was a lot to take in. We know it. I came to Alaska from Montana, where I spent a decade on the reservation with my Northern Cheyenne husband. This is my 6th year with the project and my 25th year in Alaska. I have the fun job of providing you with cultural connections, ideas that we hope will enrich your experience of teaching with diverse populations while making your content more relevant to all learners. Whether you're urban with a lot of diversity or rural hub and village teachers with less diversity, culture matters no matter where you teach. A part of our coursework will always include this, so we want you to just sit back and listen to what we have to say. We're going to go over the standards. They're listed there. I'm not going to repeat them. I'm just going to go on to the next slide. Just know that we're dealing with the standards. Communication, one strand tonight, a learning piece was about communication. I'm going to give you a quick story about communicating between a non-native and a native family, my husband's family and mine. When I first married my husband in Northern Cheyenne and moved onto his reservation in Montana, I had a lot to learn. We were friends. We were with friends while we were driving around the res sightseeing when I thought I must have done something wrong because nobody was talking. Silence. I grew up with 5 siblings and animated parents. Our car trips were never silent, ever. Even today, when the siblings come together, you would be challenged to find a moment's silence. My husband makes many jokes about this when we're all together. That silent road trip made me feel very awkward, as if I had committed some sort of a faux pas. Afterwards, I asked him what I'd done to make everyone be quiet. He just laughed and told me it was very normal and not to concern myself, that his people did not have a need to talk as much as my people did. So fast forward more than 30 years, the talk remains the same. His family is quiet, mine is not. That was one of my early lessons in norms for communication and culture. Do not do all the talking. Learn to listen. Listening is important, and in that regard, we have a book that's free, so get ready for a screenshot or take down this website, or also know that we're going to give you access to these slides at the end of the forum so you can scroll back to it. This book came out in the summer of 2013. It was free. All you have to do is ask for it. Now all you have to do is go to that website and click on it, and you actually get the entire book for free. It was dedicated to Anikol Oscar Kawagli. He's one of the most knowledgeable Alaskan educators who ever lived. And at the front of the book it says, whose wisdom, dedication, and courage inspired him to forge some of the first and most important connections between indigenous ways of learning and Western higher education. So either take this down or simply Google "stop talking" and you'll get it. Enjoy. Your paraprofessionals, whether they're native from the village or non-native from the city or a mix of both in either places, no matter where you teach, each person has something to offer. Each of us communicates in a unique way, learned as a young child. Listen and find out what each person has to offer. And there's one quick remaining piece for tonight. It's all about you. And there are a few of you out there we know need to hear this right now. Are you taking care of yourself? Hal's going to walk us through a quick awareness lesson on being a balanced professional.
Thanks, everyone. I'm speaking for Hal Neese, who lives in Homer, and he's taught for 33 years on the Kenai Peninsula for the Kenai Peninsula School District as a middle school and high school science teacher. And now he's in his sixth year with the Mentor Project. And teaching standard number 8, developing as a professional. This Mentor Project believes it's important to maintain and sustain a balanced professional life, and we'll briefly look at what that is.
Cal, thank you for covering me. My mic went off there, and I appreciate that very much. I am Hal, and when we presented this slide in our first forum, we introduced this graph, and it illustrates 5 different phases that most beginning teachers go through sometime during their first or second year. It's based on a national study, and it was published in the New Teacher's Complete Sourcebook. And even if you're a 25-year veteran, we often cycle back and forth, and we have our ups and downs, depending on the time of year and other factors. But it's really important to know where we are in any profession, and especially in teaching. So take a minute and just look at this graph real quickly and notice the pattern and the phases you go through time. And after scanning this for just a few moments, we want every one of you to take a short hash mark and place it in the phase that you currently see yourself, knowing this will undoubtedly change as the year progresses. We realize this is just a general overlook, and it's meant only to give a snapshot of where we might be as a larger group tonight. It also gives us a snapshot that would be helpful so we can see how we fit with the colleagues across the state. So go ahead, you're kind of hashed out tonight. You got a lot of hash mark experience. So with that, go ahead, place your marks, and it'll be interesting to see what patterns we can look at. We'll give this about a minute, certainly not more than that. As you're making those, I'll just make some comments. Did you notice there's an upswing following Christmas holidays, and that from October till December can be a more challenging time frame? Now, every mentor, every educator, teacher, professional has experienced these phases sometimes, and many times often, and we've been there. So pick up the phone, call your mentor or that support person you trust, the colleague, spouse, best friend, mother, sister, someone, and send that email to any time to gain additional support and understanding whenever you feel that you need to connect on an issue that you may be facing. It's important to reach out and know that none of us are ever alone in this profession. I won't go over the agenda. I want you to just take a look at that, and we'll get back to the graph. By the way, we're running a little late on time here, so we'll review that graph again in our third forum coming up in November. For our reflection piece tonight, we want to submit your action plan template, which will satisfy your reflection for this particular forum and the 4 learning pieces you see in the grid that you've been working on all this evening. If you want to add any written narrative, that's certainly acceptable, but it's not required. In addition to that, we want you to have 2 questions to ponder and reflect upon. And the first one is, how can I layer my community's culture into my action plan? And that relates to Jan's piece. And who is it? Who are my support people? Who do I go to when I need help in balancing my life as a professional? We want to make sure that your action plan is completed and that you send it to both your facilitator this evening and to your mentor by 9 p.m. tonight. If you are a veteran teacher of 3 years or more, then your action plan will go to Jan Littlebear. And if you took handwritten notes on the action plan and didn't type them in, you need to scan those in an email to your facilitator. And remember that the documents needed to be sent in as attachments and or a scanned document. Facilitator emails will be provided in the next slide, so you'll have that information. And it might be a good idea on this next slide to take a screenshot. So this will give you the information you need to follow through with this evening's program and how to complete the reflections and who to send them to. We want to thank you all for your active participation. We look forward to your continued conversations with not just your mentor, but other colleagues throughout the building that you work in, and also the Blackboard Collaborative site. Note the syllabus for all the participants requires participation on the Blackboard site. And discussion on the Blackboard has been a bit slow, so be sure that you follow through and complete that part of the coursework as well. It's the place where we can learn from each other, and that's so important. Also, we suggest that you keep an archival copy of each of your reflections on all the forums that you reflect on this year. We're going to be writing a 3 to 5 page reflection paper later in the year to receive full credit, and you can then use some of these reflections for that writing. Record your facilitator and your instructor records email now. Please email those tonight as soon as you can. We want you to send a copy to your mentor as well. Now, if you're enrolled in the UX1 or the UX2, that will, and for those reflections will go to your mentor. For all other participants, your responses will go to Jan, and plus your other assignments within the next 30 days according to the syllabus. I'll let there be a little bit of time for questions but at the end of this, but before we do that, I really want to thank everyone tonight for attending the forum. I would also like to thank those who presented tonight's outstanding session: Chris, Jenny, Deb, Linda, Sandy, and Chris with a K, and other mentors who are present and your added conversations. And we always want to thank Anne for coordinating our slides and giving us the technical assistance we need. Thank you all this evening for your professionalism and your dedication and the heroic efforts that you give your students every day in the communities where you reside in Alaska. Until next time, we hope you have a great rest of this week. And as Garrison Keeler always says when he signs off, be well, do good work, and stay in touch. I will turn my mic off and see if there's any questions. And we really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Hello, everybody in the main room that's still here. The main room is going to be left open until about 9:30. So if you want to move around and take a look at the slides yourself, just go ahead and do that. But I'll be closing it down about 9:30.